I want to say hello and welcome everyone, and thank you all for attending our webinar on the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist program. Just to know that this is being recorded at this time, and we will make this recording available a little bit later on. Let's go ahead and move into a few housekeeping details. So just note that all webinar participants have been placed on mute. We would love it if you could try to hold your questions until the end of the webinar, although there is still a Q&A feature for you to send in your questions as they occur to you. But do note that we hope that the presentation will address many of your questions. The question and answer session, as I said, will occur toward the end of the webinar, so you can go ahead and submit your questions then. And then the PowerPoint slides with notes will be available on the California Department of Education, or the CDE Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialists, or the LCRS Grant Program webpage. And that is https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/PS/LCRSprogram.asp. And now I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Cheryl Cotton to officially welcome you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you to everyone for joining us for our first webinar on the LCRS program, or the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist program. My name is Cheryl Cotton, and I serve as Deputy Superintendent of the Instruction, Measurement, and Administration branch at the California Department of Education. The Educator Excellence and Equity Division is one division that I support within this branch. And so for today's webinar, we will have at some point in the conversation remarks from our State Superintendent of Public Instruction. We'll also have an overview of the LCRS program. You'll have a chance to learn more about the allocations and apportionments of this program, allowed expenditures, as well as the reporting requirements. We will also talk through some additional supports, next steps, resources, and then we'll have some question and answer at the end, along with a closing statement. We're using this time together today to also gather some information about you. Throughout the webinar, we will be polling the group for information that will help CDE provide the most responsive updates, technical assistance, and support to each of the LEAs and schools who are receiving the LCRS grant funding. So let's start off with a quick poll. We'd like to know who's joining us today. Julia, take it away.
All right, thank you. So we are utilizing Poll Everywhere today for our polls. So this first one is, we'd like to know what your role is at your local educational agency. And so you can access Poll Everywhere either through your telephone, your smart device there, or you can go into a web browser and respond at pollev.com/EE. So eEquity 732, and that's case sensitive. And I'm seeing things come in, so many of you have already gotten familiar with this, or you can also text message eEquity 732 to phone number 22333 to join via text. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see the results. All right, so we have some live feed coming in here. So thank you to those of you who are responding. We'll give it another 30 or so seconds. So again, those instructions are at the top of the page there as well. So if you missed that. And Jen could probably pop that into the chat as well, which she may have already done. Thanks. All right, so again, you can leave this browser open on your other web page, or keep this text message thread going, because we're going to be polling again later during the session. And so you'll just go ahead and you won't need to type this in again. You can just put your answers into your next text message as they come up. All right. So I will, looks like things are still coming in. All right, I think people are getting used to using Poll Everywhere. Okay, I think next time, Jen, we'll put some music to this as we listen, as we see the results coming in. All right. So it looks like 19% of our participants here are superintendents and 9% are chief academic officers. 22 are district or charter school staff. We have 9% principals, 9% teachers. Looks like we've got 4% reading specialists and 30% other. So very exciting. Again, we're so happy to have you join us today. I'll go ahead and turn it back to Cheryl. Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you for your responses, everyone. So our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, his vision for this program is establishing a community, a partnership between you, us at the CDE, and supports throughout the state, all committed to improving literacy outcomes for our students. This is the first of many webinars that we will host throughout the LCRS program period. We want these spaces to be a time for us to come together and learn from each other, sharing best practices and bright spots, and also a time for us to support each other, sharing areas of need and connecting with each other to share resources and tools. We hope you will continue to join us. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Jennifer Howarder, our Education Program Consultant for the Educator Excellence and Equity Division, to share more about the LCRS grant program. Jennifer.
Thank you so much. And just welcome again, everyone. I'm super excited to have you all here for our first webinar. This will be a technical assistance webinar provided by us at the Educator Excellence and Equity Division at the CDE. My name is Jennifer Howarder, and I am an Education Programs Consultant in the Professional Learning Innovations Office. So the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, you may or may not be aware, has pledged support to local educational agencies across California to ensure all California students can read by the 3rd grade by 2026. And the LCRS, the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Program, is a very important part of that work. Having the support of literacy coaches and reading specialists in schools helps all students make gains in literacy, especially those students struggling to read. And so we want to pause here again for just a moment. We would like to know how familiar you all are with the state superintendent's goal, that goal for all California students to be reading by 3rd grade by 2026. Julia, you want to take it away?
Got it. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our polls here. Looks like folks are already responding. Thank you. Okay, we keep doing a little bit of change there, but it looks like almost 3/4 of you are either somewhat familiar or very familiar with the Superintendent's Initiative. So that's great news. And those numbers keep moving. So I'll just be quiet a moment and let's see if where they land. Well, thank you. Jen's going to provide a little bit more information to you about that for those of you that are not very familiar or not familiar at all. So I will turn it back over to Jen.
Thank you so much. So it was great to see that a lot of you have heard about the superintendent's goal. He has pledged to work toward the goal of ensuring that all California students can read by the 3rd grade by 2026. And as I'm sure you all are well aware, this is an ambitious goal, right? And it's a goal that requires all of us to work together hand in hand to support it. Us at the CDE have a lot of different literacy programs and grants and initiatives to help support this. Really kind of first and foremost, and the reason you all are here today is the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Program. But then we also have the Early Literacy Support Block Grants, the Reading Instruction and Intervention Grants, the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grants, our Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, and then the 2 Educator Workforce Investment Grants, the first one for English Learner Roadmap implementation and the other for special education. And then finally, the California Dyslexia Initiative. And so, you know, again, when I say all hands on deck, it really is kind of all hands on deck, right? We really want everyone to be able to work together toward this, to collaborate, to create this sense of community amongst all of us who are passionate and motivated and in meeting these literacy goals. So we have links to all of these resources for each of these programs that we'll go ahead and share at the end of the webinar. And we really want to encourage you to build upon the great work that is already happening across the state. We have a lot of different supports in place, a lot of different resources that are developed, and we want to help support you in utilizing those to their greatest ability. And then if you want kind of a deeper dive into the Superintendent's Literacy Initiative, I've included this link on the screen here. It's https://www.cde.ca.gov/nr/NE/YR21/YR67.ASP. So I encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that and see all of the steps that have occurred to get us to this point. And now I'm going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and go into an overview of the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist program. So Assembly Bill 181, Section 137, Chapter 52, Statutes of 2022 authorizes the LCRS program. The sum of $250 million was appropriated from the general fund to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction for the LCRS program. And of the total funding, the SSPI allocated $225 million to eligible school sites to develop school literacy programs, employ and train literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, and develop and implement interventions for students in need of targeted literacy support. Funds were allocated based on an eligible site's enrollment in kindergarten or any of the grades 1 to 3 inclusive, so that no local educational agency or LEA will receive less than $450,000 per eligible school sites. Grant amounts were determined using 2021-22 school enrollment data determined as of the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System Fall 1 certification. Funds may be expended through the 2027 fiscal year, and any funds not encumbered by June 30th, 2027 must be returned to the CDE. And then of the funds appropriated, $25 million is available for the SSPI in collaboration with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or the CTC, and subject to the approval of the Executive Director of the State Board of Education to select a County Office of Education, or COE, through a competitive process to develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later on. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Julie Klein-Briggs, for her to go over specifics regarding allocations and apportionments.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, I'm Julie Klein-Briggs with the Categorical Allocations and Audit Resolution, or CAR office within CDE's School Fiscal Services Division. Our office is responsible for the allocation and apportionment of funds for the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialists Grant Program. Today, I'll talk briefly to some of the key fiscal details and a couple of items that Jen has also mentioned on the last slide. So first, the entities eligible for this funding are identified in the statute as elementary school sites that are operated by a school district or county office of education, or an eligible site may also be a charter school. A school site must have an unduplicated pupil percentage of 97% or greater for kindergarten and grades 1 through 3. Please note this percentage is determined using the 2021-22 data for pupils eligible for free or reduced price meals, English language learners, and youth in foster care. This is a separate calculation for grades K through 3 only and does not include data for additional grades served at the site. The program is formula driven and there is no application required in order to receive the funds. The funding formula for this program requires an equal amount per pupil in grades K through 3 and also establishes the minimum funding level of $450,000 per eligible school site. And while there's no application required to receive the funds, this program did provide an opportunity for eligible local educational agencies, or LEAs, to opt out of program participation for one or more eligible school sites. LEAs that elected to decline funds had a deadline of September 30th, 2022 to notify CDE of that decision by submitting the online opt-out form. Funds for any non-participants will be reallocated to other participating school sites. This means the per pupil amount will be increased slightly for other participants, and the same minimum funding level will apply. So the amount we calculate for each eligible school site is referred to as the allocation. In August, we posted a schedule of estimated allocations for all eligible school sites on our funding results webpage noted on this slide. The URL is https://www.cde.gov/FG/FO/R14/LIT/COACCESULT.ASP. Our office plans to post final allocations in approximately January 2023 that will reflect a reallocation of funds from any non-participants. The apportionment or payment for the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Grant Program is planned for approximately January 2023 and will reflect 100% of the calculated allocation. Regarding funding availability, as Jen noted, these funds will be available for encumbrance through June 30th, 2027. For accounting purposes, LEAs will use SACS resource code 6211, titled Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Grant Program. Lastly, fiscal resources such as funding results, frequently asked questions, and links to the statute are available on our fiscal webpage noted on this slide. The URL for this page is https://www.cde.gov/FG/AA/CA/LITERACHES.ASP. Questions regarding the calculation or apportionment of funds may be directed to the CAR office at caar@cde.ca.gov. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you taking the time to go over that with us. So I just created a little summary slide here of kind of the major fiscal points. So remember that it is $250 million total. $225 million is available to eligible sites with a minimum of 450,000, and $25 million will be available as a competitive grant to a COE. Funds must be encumbered by June 30th, 2027. So let's go ahead and move into allowable uses of funds. So LCRS funds are to be used for developing school literacy programs, employing and training literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, and developing and implementing interventions for students in need of targeted literacy support. The authorizing statute provides additional information on expenditures for school literacy programs. This includes developing a school literacy plan that includes goals and actions to improve literacy acquisition for pupils in preschool, if applicable, and kindergarten or any of grades 1 through 3 inclusive. The plan shall identify metrics to measure progress toward the goals and actions. And hiring at least one literacy coach or reading and literacy specialist per school to support educators and pupils in improving literacy instruction and pupil outcomes. So let's go ahead and pause here. Hiring a literacy coach or a reading specialist is a major use of these funds. So we would like to know if you plan to hire a literacy coach or reading specialist using LCRS funds for eligible school sites. So go ahead, Julia, and launch the poll.
All right, so those responses are coming in. And I'll just be quiet for a moment. Again, reminder, the directions for how to respond to these questions are in the Zoom chat as well as on top of the screen there as well. And we actually have a total of 3 poll questions for you. So this is one of 3 here. And I saw that a few of you had gone ahead and started entering before we put the slide up there. So Okay, so 14% of you said that yes, you will hire. 17% said you will hire at least one literacy coach. And that's up to 19 now. 10% of you said you will hire at least one reading specialist. And 19% you're planning to hire both. 3% are not planning to at this time because you're already employing reading specialists and or literacy coaches. And half of you are not quite sure yet. So, and those final numbers, 21% literacy coach, yes, and 18% both. So thank you for taking that poll. And I think we're going to pause for a moment and I will turn it over to Cheryl.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let you know that our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, has joined us, and we're very excited to have him speak to you a little bit about what his vision and his goals are for this use of funds and his work around literacy. Superintendent?
And thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Julia, Jennifer, Monique, and Julie. I was enjoying just following the polling questions. And thank you all who've joined this conversation. I'm very excited about what we're doing in California around reading coaches and specialists. Many of you know that we have established a goal to really get to the place where for once we can see that all children in our state learn to read by 3rd grade. We want to dig in as deeply as we can into the best practices that would help to get us there. And I'm so excited that you're here because you really are an important part of that. Of course, this whole funding source is important. And many of you know that I launched a task force on reading by 3rd grade. And one of the things that task force advocated for was to have more funds for reading coaches and specialists. And so I'm glad that this has materialized and that you all are here and that you're receiving your allocations. But we want to build a community where we work together to hear from you, the things that are working for you, the places where you want help, how we can learn from each other to help us get to achieve the goal of reading by 3rd grade. I won't reiterate the big pieces. You already know there's $225 million coming directly to our school districts to hire reading coaches and specialists. I just would like for you all to think of yourselves as part of a special cohort that we work together to figure out how we make this happen statewide. Yes, in your district, yes, in your schools, and all across the state. And so thanks to our team. I'm looking forward to hearing more results from the survey. We want to hear from you what you need, but we really want to hear from you the ideas that you are willing to share about how we can help our students reach these important milestones. So that's it for now. Thank you for being on. Back to the survey and the polls, and looking forward to the great work that we will be doing together on behalf of California students. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Okay, so let's go back out to our polls. Thanks for those of you who responded to the previous one. We are ready to move on to our next one. And we still have our old one up, so here we go. Here's our next one. If you plan to hire a reading specialist and or literacy coach, when do you anticipate starting that recruitment? And so this will just pop in, answers will pop in as they occur. So we'll see all of the responses given. So we have ASAP, Spring 2023, ASAP, Spring 2023, another Spring 2023, another Spring 2023, now, Spring 2023, already recruiting, that's great, ASAP. Once budget is confirmed at the district level. And another ASAP, Spring 2023. January 2023, Spring 2023. Soon, I hope. Spring 2023. All right, so we're seeing a theme there. A lot of folks are looking to recruit as soon as possible for the spring of 2023 and ASAP. And I'll give that another 5 seconds for folks if you're still getting that into the response there. All right, thank you. So we will go to our next question before we hand it back to Jen. What barriers, if any, do you anticipate having in hiring a literacy coach and or reading specialist? So again, responses will come in as quality candidates, lack of qualified candidates, okay. Finding highly qualified candidates, another one, finding qualified staff, finding one, we are very rural, talented pool, lack of candidates, qualified candidates or candidates at all, lack of qualified staff, finding qualified candidates, finding anyone, sufficient candidates and replacing those that we may select from our current staff, staff available, lack of candidates, effective professional development, lack of candidates in face of competing literacy projects, rural and isolated area, finding candidates, finding staff to take the position, knowing there's a 5-year budget. Okay, so definitely a theme of folks have mentioned that finding candidates in general is challenging at this time. So we have heard that with some of our other grants as well. So appreciate you taking the time to respond to these questions, and I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Julia was saying, that we certainly are hearing that in other grant programs as well, that challenge of finding qualified candidates, especially in our rural areas, being able to fill those positions. So we certainly hear you on that. We also have other activities that go under the definition for a school literacy program. So that includes increasing access to evidence-based literacy instruction through strategies, including but not limited to any of the following: providing bilingual reading specialists to support dual language acquisition and English language or ELD, English language development or ELD programs, developing and implementing culturally responsive curriculum and instruction, providing professional development for educators and school leaders in literacy instruction and the use of data to identify and support struggling pupils, and providing professional development for educators and school leaders regarding the implementation of the English Language Arts ELD framework and the use of data to support effective instruction. So we have another poll for you. We would like to know, of these activities, which ones do you plan on spending LCRS funds on? So Julia, you go ahead and launch that.
All right, thanks, Jen. Okay, so again, we have the question here. Select the activities for which you plan to use LCRS funds. Option A is providing bilingual reading specialists to support dual language acquisition and English language development programs. So if that's the one you would choose, you could select A. You just type A into the text message response, and you can also add in multiple responses here. So you would do A, hit enter, and then B, enter. So B is developing and implementing culturally responsive curriculum and instruction. And C is providing professional development for educators and school leaders in literacy instruction and the data to identify and support struggling pupils. And D is providing professional development for educators and school leaders regarding implementation of English language arts / ELD and the use of data to support effective instruction. We'll go to the responses now. Right, so those are still coming in. I'll just wait a moment. Okay, you can see we've got a donut here that's ever-changing colors. All right, so I'll go ahead and read off responses. They might change a little bit. So it looks like 17% of you chose A, providing bilingual reading specialists. Another 17% folks said yes, they were planning to develop and implement culturally responsive curriculum and instruction. A very large chunk, 41%, responded that they are planning to provide professional development for educators and school leaders in literacy instruction and the use of data to identify and support struggling pupils. And over a quarter of you said you're planning to spend do activities, professional development for educators and school leaders regarding implementation of ELA and ELD and the use of data. All right, so I will go ahead and turn it back over to Jen.
Thank you. So as you can see, there are a lot of different ways in which we can spend funding on professional learning and supporting our educators and students. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of start thinking about what you might be spending those funds on and perhaps have more conversations within your sites. Next, we have establishing an evidence-based family literacy initiative, which may include, but is not limited to, the following: family literacy plans that identify literacy and biliteracy goals, benchmarks, and roles for all family members. Family literacy home visiting programs, including but not limited to Promotora family literacy outreach specialists. LEAs may establish literacy and biliteracy home visits to engage families and how to best support their pupils and every family member in reaching their literacy goals. And then continued extended day, summer, or weekend family institutes related to literacy and biliteracy. LEAs are encouraged to work with in-house expanded learning programs to establish literacy and biliteracy support programs and literacy enrichment programs during after-school, weekend, and summer hours. And public library family literacy partnerships, including but not limited to digital tools to support whole family literacy. So of course, we have another poll for you. We would like to know if you plan to use LCRS funds for an evidence-based family literacy initiative. So go ahead, Julia, and launch that next one.
All right, thanks, Jen. Okay, so let me get that shared. It is open now. So do you plan to use literacy coaches and reading specialists grant funds for an evidence-based family literacy program? All right, so we'll give you a good minute and a half here to respond. All right, it's looking about half and half. We have 47% said yes, and 53% said no. So, oh, and someone just changed it. So now their answer or added in a new response, and we've got exactly 50-50 now. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. And I'll leave that up if you want to continue putting in responses until we get to our next poll question. I'll turn it over to Jen.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to switch gears a little bit again and start talking about everyone's favorite reporting requirements. So annual reports will be due no later than September 30th each fiscal year, and our first annual report will be due on September 30th, 2023. A final report is expected by spring 2027 and no later than June 30th, 2027. We will have a reporting template available on our LCRS web page. And just for a reminder, that URL is https://www.cde.ca.gov/ps/LCRSprogram.asp. And as at the CDE, we are requiring annual reporting as a response to requests for detailed information in the legislative reports to justify future funding opportunities and to confirm funding is being appropriately used and tracked at the local level. LEAs can anticipate reporting on the following metrics. Note that this is subject to change. So those metrics can include funds spent on literacy coaches and reading specialists, information on school literacy plans and professional learning, including topics of events offered, roles and numbers of participants served, and funds spent for this purpose. Information on family literacy plans, outreach specialists, and events, including the number of events and families served. Impact on student achievements using state and local assessments, disaggregated by student subgroup, and successes and challenges. We also have quite a few supports lined up for you as you embark on this program. As I mentioned before, a part of the program is the legislature providing an additional $25 million for a County Office of Education, or COE, to support the LCRS work. So that $25 million will be available via a competitive grant to a COE, and that COE will develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. So I'm thinking back to one of our previous polls, and someone had mentioned a challenge for hiring is professional development and access to that. So that's going to be a major charge of our County Office of Education, is providing access to that. So we really encourage LEAs with eligible sites to work with the COE to take advantage of the supports it will provide for all allowable expenditures for this program. And then just a bit of more information on this County Office of Education. We at the CDE will prioritize applicants with demonstrated success in improving literacy, especially among underperforming pupil subgroups, as well as for those planning on partnering with institutions of higher education with demonstrated success in providing statewide professional development for expert literacy practice. Additionally, the grantee will consider the preparation program standards set by the CTC for reading and literacy and developing the standards for educator training. And then we have additional funding available as well. So the California state budget signed by the governor in July 2022 includes $15 million from the general fund for the Reading and Literacy Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program. This is a one-time grant award of up to $2,500 per participating teacher, available to LEAs to support the preparation of credentialed teachers to earn a supplementary authorization in reading and literacy and provide instruction in reading and literacy coursework in settings authorized by the underlying credential. So we encourage you to check this out, and you can find more information at the URL on the screen. That is https://www.ctc.ca.gov/educator-prep/grant-lit-auth-incentive. And then we have mentioned that we also want to continue hearing from you. We want to know what's going on, get your context, and find out the ways in which we can support you. So we are going to be sending out a survey to all LEAs receiving LCRS funds to inquire about your plans for spending the funds, your current context, and any potential challenges you think that you might face. So kind of taking this, kind of some of the poll questions that we had today and going a little bit deeper into them and giving a chance to those who weren't able to attend to make their voices heard. This survey will help us and the eventual awarded COE to provide the supports that you all need for this program. So when we do send that out, we really do appreciate your responses. And then next steps, we think that any important step, that the most important step in any project is planning. So we really encourage you as a first step in this project to engage in a needs assessment process to inform a school literacy plan, whether it is a plan that you already have in place or a plan that you will create. The CDE has a lot of really excellent resources in developing a school literacy plan, and we intend on providing additional technical assistance sessions focused on that. And as mentioned, this webinar will be the first in a series. We would like to offer spaces in the webinars and in other ways for you to share the successes and best practices happening at your schools, as well as any needed supports that you have. So stay tuned for future invitations. They will be coming. And then ultimately, we really want to build a community among those of us receiving LCRS funds, as our superintendent mentions. Together, we are all committed to the work of improving literacy outcomes for students. And all of us are really excited for the road ahead and working closely with you guys in the future COE and making sure that this vision happens. So we have shared some of our ideas on supports, but of course, we really want to hear yours as well. So we have a couple more poll questions for you. The first, what future webinar topics would you like to see? And then what other supports can the CDE offer? So go ahead and take it away, Julia.
So we have our last one there. I just thought I would share that we tipped the balance to 55% for literacy coaches and for evidence-based family literacy programs. All right, so here's our next question. What other topics would you like our literacy coaches and reading specialists grant webinars to cover? And so this is a word cloud. So use one-word answers, one-word responses if possible. Okay, we have a lot of words coming in now, but planning continues to stay that largest word there, which means we had the most responses with the word planning in it. Okay, and I'll read a few others. Fiscal is growing quite large there as well. Models, training. So we also have implementation examples, sample plans, biliteracy, incentives, data. All right, a few others, authorization, dual language. So training and fiscal planning models, they all manage to stay those top words there. All right. I think I'll go ahead and turn it back to Jen.
It was really exciting for me, at least, being able to see so many of you talking about planning being something that you would like future webinars to be on, because that's certainly kind of a passion of mine, is being able to lay all of that really important groundwork in the beginning and develop that the relationships and the trust between all educational partners that need to be on the at the table to ensure that a school literacy plan is successful. So I'm excited to be able to work with you guys on that. And again, stay tuned for more information on webinar topics. And then, do we have our other poll as well, Julia?
We sure do. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And folks are still inputting for our last one, which is great. Looks like some additional words have popped up, and we will go to our last and final poll here. Are there other supports you would like to receive from the CDE for this grant? All right, well, someone said updated FAQ with Q&A answers from webinars. That is on our list to do. That is in the works and should be happening soon. So we will be getting an updated FAQ very soon. Okay, similar size, location, rural cohort. Okay, so it sounds like folks want to have some opportunities to communicate with LEAs that are similar to themselves. How you want to measure progress was another response. Expense scenarios and/or examples, office hours, a couple of office hours, facilitate short ongoing webinars on successful implementation of programs, success stories in California, progress monitoring, allowable expenses, planning template. All right, I'll give it another 5 seconds. And I'll leave this open actually throughout the end of the end of the webinar. So you're welcome to continue adding responses, but we did get a couple more samples of planning templates, liaisons available for questions, database of programs and model programs. All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate that input so we can make our next webinar meet your needs. All right, so I will go ahead and stop share and turn it back over to Jen. Again, you're welcome to continue inputting into that and include more examples.
Thank you. And I'm really excited to say that we've developed a lot of great templates and needs assessment resources, tools and things to help you be successful. And so we'll be able to share those with you in a future webinar, a future TA session. Thank you for all of your responses on that. That really helps us kind of tailor the technical assistance and the professional learning that we hope to provide for you. So looking ahead, we have a tentative timeline of events. We will provide a more in-depth one on the LCRS webpage, but just at this early stage, this is what we have for you. So early 2023, as Julie mentioned, you can expect to receive your full apportionments. Spring 2023, we hope to have our COE awarded and working with you. And then September 30th, 2023, our first report is due. And then for the next several slides, I'm going to be sharing some resources to support you in this grant program. Make sure in particular to bookmark these 2 pages for information on both the program and the funding side. Future webinars will be announced on the LCRS program webpage. And when we do update our frequently asked questions and post them, you will be able to find them there as well. So our LCRS program webpage is https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/LCRS program.asp. And then the funding side is https://www.cde.ca.gov/FG/FO/litcoaches22results.asp. So again, make sure to bookmark those 2 pages because we'll have the latest and the greatest information posted there when it's available. And then bear with me, I have a lot more links for you here. So remember at the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned all of those other grant programs connected to literacy. So I really encourage you to check out these other resources as well. A lot of the kind of supports and resources that you guys had mentioned wanting access to have been developed through some of our other grant programs. So that will definitely be something that we showcase for you on future webinars, but you can go ahead and get a head start by doing a little dive into some of these resources that we have for you. So the first is the Early Literacy Support Block Grants, and you can find information about that at https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/PS/ELSB-grant.asp. And then we have the Reading Instruction and Intervention Grants, and that can be found at https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/PS/RII-grant.asp. That one's just getting started, so we're really excited for all of the resources and materials that will be coming from that one. Next, we have our Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grants, and that can be found at https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/PS/CLSD.asp. And then from that, we also have our Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, and that document can be found at https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/PS/documents/CA-Comp-State-Lit-Plan.pdf. And then we have our Literacy Resources Repository, which is also something that has sprung from the CLSD grants, and that is hosted on California Educators Together. So you can find that at https://www.caeducators-together.org/groups/comprehensive-literacy-state-development-grants-repository. So some of you had mentioned wanting templates for plans and stuff on needs assessments. You can find that in our Literacy Resources Repository. So I encourage you to take a dive in there. But we'll provide TA on that later on as well. And then our 2 EWIG grants. The first one is our English Learner Roadmap, https://www.cde.ca.gov/SP/EL/RM/ELRM-policy.asp. And then our special education one, https://CCIL.cast.org/home. And then last on this page, the California Dyslexia Initiative, that can be found at https://www.cde.ca.gov/CI/dy/CA Dyslexia Initiative.asp. And then last one, I promise. So this page holds some different resources. You guys had mentioned, the problem of recruitment. And of course, we know a huge component of this is literacy coaches. So we have a few resources here for you to support you in that. So first up is teacher recruitment strategies. This can be found at https://www.cde.ca.gov/pd/peat-recruitments.asp. And then a document on coaching for impact. You can find this at https://learning-forward.org/wp-contents/uploads/2017/08/coaching-for-impact.pdf. And then instructional coaching for English language arts. This can be found at ies.ed.gov/nCEE/edlabs/infographics/pdf/rel_instrucore_for_ela.pdf. And last one, thanks for sticking with me, teacher leadership. So this can be found also on our California Educators Together site. So that is https://www.caeducators-together.org/resources/1170/what-does-the-teacher-leadership. The end. Hooray. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, so now I've seen some questions coming in the chat, and I want to thank my colleagues so much for taking the time to answer those. But this is the time of our webinar for you guys to share those questions with us. So if you have a question that has not yet been answered, please take a moment to type it into the Q&A section. Please do note that some questions may require additional research, but for those questions and all questions, we will post the answers on the LCRS frequently asked questions webpage that we mentioned that we'll be updating soon. If you would like access to those questions earlier, please feel free to email us and we'll get them to you as soon as possible, as soon as we have answers for those questions. So let's go into some of the answered ones, and we could go ahead and read those questions out while
Jen,
people. Oh yeah, sorry.
I'd be happy to read a few of those.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Good job on those URLs, by the way. It's always. All right. So a couple of folks asked about the yearly report, the template. The template will be available by the end of the year for what types of things we will ask of you to report on. And folks also asked about when those were due. So just a reminder, annual reports will be due no later than September 30th of each fiscal year, with the first one being due September 30th of 2023. And a final report is expected by spring 2027 and no later than June 30th, 2027. And let's see here. And we will be posting the slides and a recording online. And we are, we'll probably get those in the next couple of weeks. You can expect to receive or see the postings online. And someone was asking about one of the URLs. So I'm going to do a little bit more research to figure out which URL that was, so we can get an updated one if need be. So, right, and we'll just pause and see if any more questions come in. Okay, we've got a very wonderful suggestion here. Thank you, Jennifer. We will make sure to get those webinars links in the chat while we're presenting. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
And I could try to also, because I have all of your registration emails, I could try to send up a follow-up email to you with all of those URLs double checked, just in case there was one that was broken in that email, so that way you'll have access to them.
Jen is very efficient. Thank you, Jen. Okay, we have an additional question about literacy program. Looks like maybe one of our wonderful team members here is typing an answer. And Anna, thank you very much for the kudos there. Appreciate that. And if we did not get a response to you today, keep in mind that information we will look into. And as I mentioned, we are very close to having some updated FAQs to post online. And so we greatly appreciate all of your responses in our polls and the questions you ask. That will help us to make our resources all the much better. So thank you. And thank you, Erin.
And if a question comes up that you know, think about later on, you're in the middle of the night, you suddenly bolt up in bed, you're like, oh, I wish I had asked this question, please do reach out to us. For the program side, you can reach out to us at plio@cde.ca.gov. And then if you have more of a funding related question, you can reach out to my colleague, Julie, at caar@cde.ca.gov. So please do feel free to reach out to us at any point in time. All of the questions that you ask help us to refine our support that we give to you. So we welcome your questions, we welcome your thoughts, so we can update our web pages and FAQs and technical assistance accordingly. So with that, we have reached the end of our webinar. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to attend. We are just really excited about the opportunity that the LCRS program gives all of us. As the superintendent talked about, our charge is to ensure that all California students are reading on grade level by 3rd grade by 2026. And I just feel it like right now we have such a great opportunity. We have so many different supports in place, so many different grants, just a really great kind of context that we find ourselves in to do some meaningful work and really affect positive change. So I'm really excited to be able to work with you all. I'm really excited to be able to work with our eventual COE. And I just thank you again for being here, for giving us your support, and I look forward to seeing you all again in a future webinar. Any other final comments from any of my colleagues?
All right, thank you so much for being here today. We're really excited about this opportunity.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your night, and I will be in contact soon with that follow-up email with those URLs and some next steps. Thank you all.